Okay, let's get started. We'll start this triangle section 1 with casting on 5 stitches with a long tail cast on with color A. And the first row we are going to be working is a setup row on the wrong side, and that is knit 3, bring yarn to the front and slip the last 2 stitches purlwise. And then we turn around and we're working our first right side row. It might be a good idea to mark the right side with a stitch marker, just to hang it in there somewhere so you can easily see which is the right side and wrong side. So we're starting row 1 with knit 2, yarn over, and knit to last 2 stitches. So in this case it was just knit 1, and then we slip in the last 2 again. And on the wrong side we are knitting to the last 3 stitches. That first of those last 3 was the yarn over we made in the previous row, so now we're knitting it through the back loop, and then we slip in the last 2 stitches again. And these 2 rows we're going to repeat until we have 14 stitches. So knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 last 2, slip with the yarn in front. Knit 2 last 3, knit through the back loop, slip 2 with the yarn in front. So what you see is slowly the I-cord dash, that is just those 2 stitches here in the back and the beginning and the end of the row. After you've worked a couple of rows, you see turning, and it's going to make a very nice neat edge. So I've made all my repeats of row 1 and 2, and I now have 14 stitches. I have 2 I-cord stitches at the beginning of the row, then 10 garter stitches, and another 2 I-cord stitches here at the end of the row. It's going to, this one here at the end is going to turn, kind of curl, kind of towards the front, so you won't be seeing any of the bumps here, so it's going to be neat knit stitches here, just like at the beginning of the row. We're starting now with our slipped stitch design, and what we'll notice hopefully is that it's not just those 2 stitches don't just go for the I-cord, but the first one is actually the one that we're going to be picking up stitches for section 2 later, and the second one here is one that is also part of the slipped stitch design. So in row 19 now we're going to knit the first stitch, and then we're going to increase here, and it's a knit yarn over knit increase. So we knit the stitch, but we leave it on the left needle, then make a yarn over and knit into that same stitch again. If you're familiar with brioche, you might be familiar with this increase as well. And then again knit to the last 2 stitches and slip them with yarn in front. As you see, our rows get longer and longer until we've reached half of the length of these triangle, and then we're going to be decreasing towards the other tip. So on the wrong side now we're going to be knitting to the last 4 stitches, otherwise known as knitting to this increase we just made. So here it is, this these 3 stitches come out of that 1 stitch here. We bring the yarn to the front of the book and slip the first stitch, then we knit the next stitch, bring the yarn to the front again and slip the last 2. There is no increase here in this row because we increased 2 stitches in the previous row. So again, knit to the last 2 stitches without increasing this time. Slip the last 2 with yarn in front. And on the wrong side, we now have to knit 12, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then again we bring the yarn to the front, slip the stitch with the yarn in front, knit 1, bring yarn to the front again and slip the last 2. So you're kind of starting to see here is this slip stitch detail that's going to be showing more in a couple of rows. So now we're back at the repeat that we're going to be repeating a couple of times, and it's very similar to the first one. We knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 last 2 on the right side. So we don't really have to worry about the slipped stitches on the right side because they are going to be knit, but on the wrong side we have to make sure that we slip them with the yarn in front. So that's why I like to count those stitches on the wrong side here now. The 2 I-cord stitches and then 10 garter stitches. Then bring the yarn to the front, slip a stitch, knit to the last 3, knit the yarn over that we made in the previous row through the back loop, slip the last 2 with the yarn in front. So those 2 rows are going to be repeated until we have 25 stitches on our needles. So I've finished the section of the shawl with my 25 stitches, 2 I-cord stitches at the beginning, 2 I-cord stitches at the end, and 1 slipped stitch detail here. And then you always have 10 garter stitches between the slip stitch details. So knowing that should make it easier for you to count. What you see here is that from this I-cord edge stitch is also where the slip stitch detail kind of grows out of, with this knit yarn over knit increase, and when you repeat the pattern and finish your increase side, you'll have 102 stitches. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to start on the decrease side right now, but please follow the pattern to finish your increase side. Otherwise you'll end up with a tiny little shawl like me. So on the decrease side, we're also going to be decreasing at the beginning of the right side row, and this time we only knit the first stitch and then we make a slip slip knit decrease. So we slip 2 stitches knitwise one after the other, and then we insert the left needle into both stitches again and kind of knit them together through the back loop. And that is a left leaning decrease. Slip, slip, knit. And then we knit through the last 2 stitches and slip them with the yarn in front. And on the wrong side we're knitting to the last 2 stitches, but be careful to slip all those slip stitches with yarn in front. I'll show you what you can do when you forget to do that. So I'm going to be purposefully not slipping this next stitch but knitting it, so you can see what happens or what you can do if you miss that slip stitch. So we knit to the last 2, slip the last 2 with the yarn in front and turn around. And again a decrease, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, and knit to the last 2 stitches. So here we are. This is one of those slip stitches that I did not slip on the wrong side. I forgot. What can you do? The easiest thing is just to insert your needle through the stitch, through below the purl bump. So this is the purl bump here. You go under the stitch, under the needle, under the stitch. Sorry, under the purl bump. Then you drop it off your left needle. You can kind of pull that stitch apart and put it back onto your left needle. So it's going to be quite a bit looser than it's supposed to be, but it is a lot better than undoing all those stitches. So as long as it doesn't happen too often, that's the easy fix you can use. So that's the repeat for the decrease side. Knit 2 I-cord stitches, then it's always knit 10, slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 10, slip 1 with yarn in front, knit to the last 2 stitches and slip them with yarn in front. So slip with yarn in front, knit to the last 2. So you can slowly see that it's starting to curve here. So this is the longest part of our triangle here, and it's going to be, so we have the increase side here, now it's going to decrease towards the end of the tip, and that's what I'm going to be doing right now, and you hopefully too. So I've finished all my repeats on my decrease side, and I only have 5 stitches left. So now it's time to wind off, and I just use a very easy normal wind off, and I start with knitting 2 stitches, and then I pull the first stitch over the second and off the needle, and then repeat, knit a stitch, pull the second over the first. The last 2 will be purled, not knit, but same principle. Then you can break the yarn and pull the tail end through that last stitch and pull tight to secure it. Which is for the second section of the Stay At Home Shawl. And we start with holding the section 1 piece with right side facing and with the cast on tip up. So we start with picking up 4 stitches from the 5 stitches we cast on here. So we had cast on originally 2 stitches for this I-cord, 1 for the garter part in between here, and another 2 stitches for the I-cord on the other side. But when we pick up now, we only pick up 4 stitches. So we start with picking up the first stitch from the first I-cord stitch. So kind of insert it somewhere here towards the back. Doesn't really matter too much where exactly. For the next part, it's more important. You want to insert the needle through in the center of these 2 stitches, these 2 legs of the I-cord stitch, and pull the loop through the center of the stitch. And then we pick up 1 stitch from the center of this garter section here that's growing out of here, and the 4th and last stitch we pick up from the cast on is again from the center of the I-cord stitch, first I-cord stitch here on the other edge. So yeah, this is it. And then we pick up 1 stitch from every I-cord row we worked here, and we do this by picking up from both legs of that second I-cord stitch. So here is the first I-cord stitch is here, and we leave this one here intact, and so we need to tilt it a little to the back and then insert your needle through both legs, through both legs of that second I-cord stitch. And you want to start here right at the very edge, so you can pick up all the stitches you need to pick up. So both legs of that second stitch, and it's getting easier after a couple of tries because it's kind of going to lift up a little, and it's going to get easier to see and stay in the same place each and every time. So after a couple of tries, picked up stitches, you'll see that you have that first I-cord stitch that is still intact here, and this is going to mirror the slipped stitch detail here, and it's kind of the divider between the picked up stitches, section 2 and section 1 and section 2. So we continue working like this until we reach the bind off. So I've picked up all my stitches from the I-cord rows, and now I have to pick up another 4 stitches from the bind off. So I mirror kind of what I did on the cast on side. So I will be picking up 1 stitch from the center of this I-cord stitch here. That split the yarn, try again. That's better. And then I'll pick up 1 stitch from the center of this garter stitch part here, and this part is a bit loose here, but it doesn't matter too much. We'll block it out and seam when we seam in the ends. It will be hidden. So we pick up 2 stitches from this I-cord edge here. So 1 from the center here, and 1 that is the trickier one kind of towards the back more. So let's see where we get a good stitch that's not too loose. Somewhere here. Yep, that looks good. So that's picking up finished, and we can now start with the wrong side setup row. So this is where we're going to be placing our markers for the center increase. And this row starts with a slip one with yarn in front. So we bring the yarn to the front and slip the first stitch purlwise. This is going to be our selvage stitch. And then the next stitch is a purl one. And then we need to knit 99 stitches. That will bring us to the center of our row. So there's 101 stitches on either side. Okay, so I should have now the same number of stitches on the left needle and on the right needle. And we're going to be placing a marker and then make our center stitch right here. And we do this with a make one increase. And that works just like a twisted loop cast on. So it's kind of like a yarn over with a twist. So you take the working yarn in your hands and you twist it around so you have a loop, and then you place it on the needles. Let me show you one more time. You twist the yarn and place it on your needles. You can twist the other one way around too. It doesn't really matter in this case. There is a faster way to do this where you don't have to drop your yarn. You would twist your finger, your hand, and pick up from here. Show you one more time. But obviously we only need one stitch. So let me undo all of these here. And then we place the second marker and knit to the last 2 stitches. That should be another 99 stitches. Okay, so we have the last 2, then it's a purl 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. That's our selvage stitch on this end here again. So it's a slip stitch selvage here. Before we had those 2 selvage stitches, now we only have 1. And on the right side, I'm now on row 1. I knit 2, make a yarn over, knit to the marker. And in this row 1 we also have the make one increases again. So I make a twisted loop, place it on a needle, pull to tighten. Then I slip the marker, knit the center stitch, slip the marker, and make another make one increase. And then I knit the last 2 stitches. Here I make another yarn over, knit the next stitch, bring the yarn to the front and slip the last stitch, yarn in front. Then turn around, and on the wrong side we knit the first stitch, purl the second stitch, knit the yarn over increase through the back loop to close it up a bit, and then knit all across the row to the last 3 stitches. those make one increase stitches, they can be a little tight to knit, so you might have to be a little careful here to get your needle through and knit it. Okay, so I'm at the last 3 stitches, and again I knit the yarn over increase through the back loop, then I pull the next stitch and slip the last stitch with yarn in front. So from now on I will repeat this right side row, and it starts the same with knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 marker. But the difference now is that we're not going to be making the make 1 increases anymore, but we will be making lifted directional increases. And the reason for that change is simply because these work better in this kind of fabric that we're getting. It is very airy fabric. I felt the make 1 increases were a little too loose, but because we had to make our center stitch there in the middle, they were the right choice for the beginning. But now we're going to switch to lifted directional increases. So when we knit to the marker, we now make a make 1 increase, and with our left hand needle we pick up this thread that is between the stitches from back to front, and then knit it through the front loop. That's the make 1 right. Slip the marker, knit the center stitch, slip the marker, and then we make a make 1 left. So again, with my left needle I pick up the thread between the stitches from front to back this time and knit it through the back loop. The make 1 left. And then we knit to the last 2 stitches again. Make a yarn over, knit, slip with yarn in front. Okay, so let's repeat that a couple of times and then we change to our color C. I've already broken my yarn because it's now ready after a total of 8 rows or 4 garter ridges to start with color C. Yay! So the color C stripes are worked in stockinette stitch, which means that all the right side rows are just the same as they were in this mohair we did here, but we need to do a little more purling on the wrong sides. So knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 marker. Okay, so going to make another make 1 right here again, and we're going to be inserting a left needle from back to front and knitting through the front loop. Then slip the marker, knit the center stitch, slip the second marker and make 1 left. Insert from front to back and knit the stitch through the back loop. Then knit to the last 2 stitches. So we've knit to the last 2 stitches, and then again a yarn over, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. Turn our work, and this is where the color C rows are different. We knit the first stitch, purl the second stitch. So far so good, but we're going to be purling this one here through the back loop, and that's a bit tricky. So what I do is I kind of twist my left hand needle and then insert the right needle through this part of the stitch, through the back loop of this stitch here, and purl it. Then we're going to be purling to the last 3 stitches. Please don't be confused because my purling technique looks a little different. We all have our different styles, and it's completely okay if yours looks different than mine, as long as at the end of the day you're going to be purling. It doesn't really matter how it looks. Okay, so we've reached the last 3 stitches, and we're going to be purling this one again through the back loop. So I twist my left needle a little. I have to bring the yarn to the front first, then insert my right needle through the back loop of this yarn over, and then purl the stitch. Purl and slip the last stitch with the yarn in front. And we're going to be repeating that, so we also have 8 rows in our color B. So I finished the striped section 2 of my little swatch here, and obviously I only have 3 stripes, but you should have a total of 7 stripes in mohair in garter stitch and 6 stripes in color C in stockinette stitch. And now it's time to bind off all our life stitches with an I-cord in color C. So we're not going to do any I-cord edges here along those sides, but we will do an I-cord edge, I-cord bind off here of all our life stitches with color C. Before we bind off, we knit 1 whole row where we just knit all the stitches with our color C. No increases here because it's just a setup row for binding off, so we don't have to increase in this right side row. And in this setup row you also can remove the markers and the center of the row. And then continue knitting to the end. So just 3 more stitches in the setup row, and then it's time to bind off. So I turn around and we're going to be binding off on the wrong side. And to start the I-cord bind off, we have to cast on 3 stitches with a cable cast on. So to do that, you insert the needle between those 2 stitches and pull a loop through, and then you place it on the needle and repeat another 2 times. So now it's time to bind off. We knit 2 stitches, and then we knit the next 2 together through the back loop, and then we transfer all stitches back to the left needle and repeat. Knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop, And slowly you can see that this I-cord starts to form here, and it's going to lie flat along the top edge. So repeat to the end. Knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop, slip 3 stitches back. So I finally have just a couple of I-cord stitches left. Personally, I love doing I-cord bind off. I find it very meditative, kind of relaxing, but I do understand that some people don't like doing that many. So for this reason, this shawl doesn't have I-cord edges all around, but just on this lower edge, the bind off. So there's just one repeat left now, so I only have 1 stitches left to bind off, 1 stitch left to bind off. So now I have only my 3 I-cord stitches left on my needles, and what happens is I just break my yarn and then I pull the tail end through the remaining stitches. And the way I do it is I kind of do like a knit version of that. You can use your crochet hook, you can use like a sewing needle for that, and then pull to tighten it, and that's it. Now it just needs to be blocked. When you block it, it's very shapeless now, so when you block it, make sure that you get rid of this little dip in here. So put a pin in it that pulls this end out a bit so you have a straight line, and also make sure that this kind of curved edge gets a bit of definition, so you might want to also put a pin somewhere here to make a crisp corner here. Yeah, that's it. So blocking is left, but you'll be able to do that on your own, so I can show you a little here. So you want to pull this up here, this down, and this up here as well, and secure with some pins, or you can use blocking wires, and then you're finished with your shawl and can wear it. Happy knitting! I hope this helped you a bit. You can find the pattern for the Stay At Home Shawl on Ravelry. The links are below the video. You can find the yarn from Nature's Luxury on their website, and you can follow me on Instagram at SoSueKnits. Happy knitting! Bye!